This is the Krillcast. I'm Chris.
Will.
And I'm Andrew.
And what's the podcast today, Andrew?
Printed and pressed.
It's almost like we planned this again. I don't know how we keep doing this, but
Yeah, it's strange.
what's the book today? Who wants to figure this out?
Voyage of the Dawn Treader.
By who will?
By-
Clive Staples.
I knew you were going to say the whole
Lewis.
name. The only author that Chris reads.
What's
favorite
J.R.R.
author.
Tolkien stand for?
I do know this. It's like,
Oh, isn't
Man, I
one of
don't
his
remember.
initials his like confirmation name or something?
I don't know.
Because
I know the second
oh, it's
R
Rule.
in George
One was
R. R.
Rule.
Martin is made up because he wanted it to sound like Tolkien.
That's not true, actually, Will.
Totally is, man.
One of the R's is his Catholic confirmation name because George R.R. Martin is a confirmed Catholic.
No.
No, look it up.
That means you
What,
should
I'm
read
not-
those
I'm not
books, Chris.
Have you read those books? They reneged that confirmation.
I mean,
They
you're
took
not
it back.
wrong, but that's where that comes from.
Have you read any of his books?
I have not.
Chris is a proud illiterate when it comes to George R. Martin's books.
I won't ever read that guy, no matter what.
Dude, that's the
Hey.
most silly thing, but that's not what we're here to
Tough,
talk
Tough
about.
Voyaging
okay?
is actually a really good book.
No,
It's
I don't
not
want whatever this.
sexual.
Okay, we are talking about a different book today, you guys.
No.
Yeah, the one that I have up here.
The Voyage of the Dawn.
All right.
The
Well,
good-
we
the
are
good
going to
book.
briefly
The good
discuss
book
it. Like
here.
this plot of this book was briefly mentioned in the story.
The plot was briefly mentioned. No,
I mean,
no,
I'm
what the
not
heck?
gonna lie. This book does, briefly touch on a lot of plots.
Yes.
without
Why'd you
ever
say
getting
it
very
that
deep.
way? Why'd you say briefly touch in that way?
I don't.
It's the weirdest
It was
way you
like-
could have said that.
I don't think so. But that's
No,
pretty
I
good.
think that was a pretty standard way to phrase that, Chris.
I don't
You're
think
just
so.
over here thinking about.
We
Game
thought
of
he was
Thrones,
just,
so-
Martin illiterate. He's just
Yeah.
illiterate.
Oh my goodness.
Fine.
Anyways.
He briefly visits
He
multiple
briefly
plots.
touched it.
Is that
no,
what
just deal with it. He briefly touched it.
Only you are the one.
Yes,
doing the
only
problem.
you. What's wrong with you?
Only you can prevent.
See, I don't
forest
think Game of Thrones is nearly as bad as you want to say. You just read into everything way worse than it is.
Okay, but you have to agree with me. Voyage of the Dawn Treader is the worst movie adaptation of a book I have ever seen in my
I
life.
told you.
I
Just
think
like-
Holy
like I said
cow.
to you guys earlier, I didn't make it past 20 minutes. I couldn't
Can-
stand Eustace in the movie.
No,
and
Eustace is like the only redeeming part of that
No,
movie.
I couldn't.
Chris.
I was just like, he complains as soon as he gets in Narnia. It's like, you're in freaking Narnia. You got pulled through a painting. Your mind.
How did you
would be
read the book
blown.
if you didn't like him that much?
Chris, can you stop pretending like I wasn't warning you guys of how terrible these adaptations?
Oh, you
were?
did warn
For
me.
the
I just
past-
didn't believe you it could be worse than the Rings of Power, but here we are.
I told you. So
Like, how do you even bring the
Here.
White Witch into a story where the White Witch doesn't exist?
because
She
they
always
paid
comes
the
back.
actress enough.
No, she
money
doesn't. She does not come
No,
back
no,
in
I'm
any
sorry.
of the
Let me
books.
In the movie, she's always there, even though she's not in the books.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like C.S. Lewis probably really wanted her in here. Yeah, that's why he never mentioned her again after The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
No, she's mentioned. Thank you very much.
You're right. In Prince Caspian, they talk about they could summon
She's
her
mentioned in this one too, Chris. Again, being illiterate.
Yeah, they were trying to summon her.
back. Wait,
in
where
the-
did they talk about the White Witch in this one?
The dagger that kills Aslan is in this book. That's what causes
Oh,
the
Yeah.
no, you're right. You're right.
She
I
is
forgot about
mentioned
that.
as the dagger.
That's the only reason
At
she's
that
in there,
table. But let's go through the storyline here. A little
Okay,
bit.
yeah.
Yes.
Why did we pick this book? Because we're doing the entire series of the Narnia Chronicles. The entire Chronicles of Narnia is part of this podcast.
Yes.
So we have two more to go after this, and then we'll be doing another. Unless we change our minds and do Lord of the Rings, the next one will be the
And
Space Trilogy.
I think the last book I was on was the one about the Titanic or the Titan. So
Wreck
it's
of the
another
Futility?
book or another
Wreck of the
boat themed
Titan.
book.
Yeah, yeah. Except this boat
Will's
doesn't
only
sink.
here for the boats.
Exactly.
So we won't be back until we get to the flying boat through space for the
Yes.
next year. No, the Vikings. We'll be back for Vikings.
Vikings. Yeah.
Yes. So
Which this book made me think of Vikings with the Dawn Treader, but you know.
not a lot of rowing, but yeah.
Yeah, they do a lot of rowing. Are you kidding me? They go down to the galley
mean-
so much.
I guess.
What are you talking? Andrew, did you read this book?
Yes, I guess there is, but that's not what it's known for. It's known for its wonderful sail.
Except that the
And how
sail was
fast it
broken
goes.
for like a good third of the book.
So, the start of this book, you have Edmund and Lucy having to go live with their terrible cousin.
And
Who
unlike
does-
the movie, you don't see Susan and Peter at all. They just talk about them.
Well, they're talked about because Peter goes to school. He's at boarding school.
In
or whatever.
America.
No, wait, he's being tutored. He's being
Yeah.
Oh no,
tutored
Susan
by,
goes. Susan goes to America.
the
You're right, Susan.
professor. And then Susan goes to America with her parents on vacation.
And it says because she's
On
not
vacation.
smart enough for the book.
I know. Again, so that's what made me think. Like, it blows my mind that these people in a previous book have become the High Kings. Okay, they ruled over Narnia for decades. Okay, lived entire lives, and they come back and they're kids again. But they have all the memories of this. So how do they act like kids again? I'm just so confused.
Magic. Well, it's magic.
Yeah, but
Clive Staples Lewis.
think about the things that we've experienced since being children. Like how
Okay.
that would have changed us.
They were never. They only were into.
Yeah, but it's
young
magic.
adult. It's only
It's
like
magic, William.
They only made it to their 20s.
Still a long time.
I know, but they
Really?
it's
It's only
not, it's not like
20s? I
any of
really
them
feel
got
like that was
married or
longer.
anything.
Well,
No,
just
they only
because
made
you
it-
were you weren't innocent into your 20s doesn't mean they weren't. Whatever I said.
I mean, all they really had were a bunch of animals and half human animals.
Exactly. Think
Like,
about the
yeah,
kids.
yeah,
but-
in
but
there
but
doing-
the original cabbie had his kids mating with the dryads and the naiads.
yeah. But think
so.
how do you think they came up with the half human, half animal hybrids?
So
This is the true origin of the talking animals. Okay.
Oh god, no, we know what the true origin is. It was Red Magician's nephew.
they're barely in. The way this book goes, though, they're barely in. It's kind of like with Prince Caspian. They're barely in our planet, our Earth, for very long before they're just sucked right into Narnia.
Yep.
And
Look, I know that Prince Caspian and Voyage of the Dawn Treader have the Pevensies, how you want to pronounce that, Caspian, and all kinds of other cool people in it. But dude, Reaper Cheap takes the goat,
Reaper Cheap
okay?
is-
he is
Yeah.
the best. Yes,
He is.
I was so happy when I found out Reaper Cheap was. I forgot Reaper Cheap was in this book until I started reading it again.
Yeah, he's the
And
best.
then I was like, oh, Reaper Cheap's the goat.
Yeah. So they are sucked in through a painting.
Which I thought.
Not
was
only are
really
they
cool.
sucked in, but the water's coming out of the painting.
Yeah.
And that's why Eustace starts freaking out. And he
Well,
tries to grab
yeah,
the painting off the wall. Like, imagine there's a fire hose just spitting water at you. Do you go towards it and pick it up? Or do you run away? Like, what is he doing?
Well, he is not a very imaginative person in the
Right, like he
beginning.
didn't know what a dragon was at all. Like, the book actually points out that he spent so much time looking up real science, he had no time for fantasy.
Yeah.
I like how
This
his
kid
parents are
sounds
basically
boring.
Intellectuals.
But
I know.
all right, so they end up in the water and are taken onto the ship, which is the Dawn Treader, which
Yep.
is being captained by Cat. Well, it's not captained by
Drinian.
Cat. Yeah.
Drinian.
Caspian is on a mission because when he took his throne, he made a pledge, an oath,
With Aslan.
to go and find the lords that his uncle had sent away over the sea.
Correct.
So the whole purpose of this is he's doing a whole sea tour to go and try to find those who had been effectively banished to bring them back and have loyal lords.
He's
So-
touring with the seamen.
Yes, Chris. And when they're picked up, he just got done at a couple of the islands, and they're on their way to the Lonely Islands, which are the far away, randomly.
It's the furthest part of the
associated-
map that's known.
Yes, and it's also the most randomly associated with the Narnian crown for no
Because
reason.
it really should be with the Calormans based on its location.
If they were to have conquered it or something, which
Right.
brings the question: how have they not conquered it?
Because the Calormen are afraid of the sea. Come on, haven't you figured that out by now?
They had boats.
They had fishing boats.
They still had boats.
They do take it over there to get slaves. You're right. That's true.
Yeah.
C.S. Lewis never spares a moment to tell you how bad the Calormen are.
Yeah. So when they're on the island, they have to.
Well,
be
let me
careful.
point out one thing. They get to the island, and the first thing C.S. Lewis writes down before they step foot is that had they had more time to think about it, they never would have stepped foot on that island. They would have kept sailing. Did you remember that?
Oh, you're talking about what they take a detour to walk across the island. It's not the settlement island.
Right. They would have skipped that had they been older and wiser. Basically, he's like
Yeah.
pointing out that experience is the best knowledge you can learn.
Well, it's also not a good idea to split yourself up as a party
Right.
for
Yeah,
no
even
reason.
though they're supposed to be at least 15 years older than they are at this point.
Okay,
Still,
but I will
I'm
say
sorry,
this.
this-
Real salty about this.
This part of the book compared to the movie made me the most angry out of all the changes they made. Because in the movie, if you haven't seen it, I'm going to be comparing this movie because it's so terrible.
Well,
throughout.
let's go through.
But
let's just go
let
through
me
the plot first.
this plot is so important. They get on the island, they get captured by slave traders, and then sold to one of the 7 lords, which was super cool. And I kind of expected
Caspian
that.
gets sold to one of
Only
the Seven
Caspian.
Lords. Yes.
And then, as part of him finding out that Caspian's alive and he's coming to find the 7 lords, he explains that, he got married, stayed on the island, never left. The rest of the lords left without him.
Yeah.
And then they go and literally just usurp the governor and make the lord a duke as he frees him from the slave trade. And then he immediately makes slave trade illegal. Like, first
Yes.
move, boom, makes the other guy the duke. And then they go out into the thing, and the governor's like, our whole business is failed now. And he's like, slavery's never been legal in Narnia. It's
Yeah,
like,
it's one of those moments.
and you haven't paid your due in 150 years.
It's one of those moments where Lewis takes a very easy opportunity to really highlight the main difference between Colorman and Narnia.
And
fact
then
that
the only thing the Callermen were upset about was they wanted their money back. That was it.
yeah,
I
yeah.
was just like, oh my gosh. But this is the worst part that changes between the movie and the book. I'm just gonna stop you right there because this is so important to me. In the book, it's so important that he takes the steps of not introducing himself as the prince or the king. He's the king at this point, right? Because he wants to make sure that they don't know they have a high value target. And then once they take over the governorship, it's so important to him to end slavery on the island. Whereas
And also it's important to put a loyal lord,
person in charge, right?
Because it's so far away. It's like if you have someone who's fighting you, it's not exactly easy to bring an army there.
In the freaking movie, they decided, hey, why don't we not make this lord have any money, and he's actually a slave in the same place that Prince Caspian is. And why don't we just not have Prince Caspian actually usurp the governor? No, we'll just leave the people in slavery on the island and go fight this mist instead. They never free the island. He never gets it under Narnia control. That was like the biggest move as the king in this book that he makes.
I'll be honest, that's
the worst change.
This is literally the most important plot line of the entire story, as in this could have been a whole book on its own if he decided to just expand on that story a lot more.
I was just so angry when I realized they made, like, that was the major change they made. Like, why would you make this change? Everything else, like, everything's out of order. But this one thing, he chose not to, in the movie, free the slaves and take over the island.
Well, as long
That's
as
like
they
the
pay
most
the
important
taxes,
thing he
it's
does.
Okay.
Yeah, but he doesn't. He never pays the taxes, and he sent them off as slaves. They escaped. Like, they're fugitive slaves at this point. Whatever.
So then after that, they ended up going to an island that had a dragon on it, right? That was the next
The next one they go to has the dragon, but only
Yeah.
Eustace sneaks off because he wants to get a rest and not do any hard work.
Yes.
And he finds the dying dragon. He sees the gold behind the dying dragon, walks over there and falls asleep, probably under the spell of the gold. Of course, there's a curse. It's dragon with gold.
Well,
and then
he took the treasure.
He took the armband, but there's never
he
anything
also
that
took
proves
gems and stuff and
he
put
did,
it in.
but there's nothing that proves the armband did anything other than hurt his arm.
No, but it's the
But the
fact
gold
that
itself.
he took treasure. The treasure itself was the cursed treasure to be a dragon. So it's like you're greedy to want the treasure, so then you become a greedy dragon that is destined to do nothing but contribute more wealth to said treasure.
Can we also just point out the fact that, once he gets turned into a dragon,
He doesn't realize it right away.
well, the mouse is about to just do one-on-one combat with this dragon, and this is like
Cheap to
that
go.
mouse.
Reaper Chief
kicks
is
ass.
great, man. But yeah, I mean, he kind of Eustace kind of just experiences his worst low there and kind of is humbled a bit, and then he eventually gets turned back from a dragon because of Aslan.
Wait. You got to stop. there's character development here you're skipping, and it's very important character development.
Which one?
When they're on the ship before this happens, Reepicheep and Eustace are head to head. They hate each other. They're fighting. They almost have a duel, and then they find an island. And then when you get to the Dragon Island, once they realize that the dragon is Eustace, they use him to capture sheep, goats, food, all kinds of stuff. And hold on, one more thing. And then when he realizes, to his dismay, that he can't turn back from being a dragon, Reepicheep is the one who consoles him that night, telling him stories of all the people who have had unfortunate things happen to them and how they've overcome them.
Yes.
He's the only one that sits there and consoles Eustace.
See, I was going to cover that in the lessons learned from it.
It's an important part of the summary.
It is.
Andrew.
It
Because
is.
Reepicheep and Eustace become very close.
They were also about to starve to death and everything right before, or they.
Which
got
is why
to
the
this
dragon
island.
getting all that food helped them
Yes.
a lot.
After that, they end up going.
Then Aslan heals him.
They go on 2 more adventures, right?
Aslan heals him before they leave the island.
I already said that.
He said
Okay, I missed that part. Okay, keep going then. Sorry. Is the next one the gold water? I think it's the gold water next.
Or it was the sea serpent.
No, sea serpent's after the gold water.
Okay, so the next island is the Goldwater Island, where
I am a bit confused since I watched 2 movies and read the book over the course of 3 days.
It's a Midas touch.
Yeah.
It's a
Edmund
Midas
should have
touch.
thrown down
right.
and just put Caspian in his place in this scene.
You mean like throw him in the water and make him a gold statue?
No. I mean, like,
He does do that.
Caspian says, like,
I claim this for Narnia.
Yeah, I claim this for Narnia. I swear you all the secrecy. And Edmund's like, well, I'm not your subject. Yeah, technically, you're mine.
Well, yeah. Edmund says, I am the High King because Peter's not here.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
He's like, I'm actually in charge of you.
It's an enchanted pond that's turns whatever's in it to gold, basically. And
But it only affects things that actually touch it. So the reason that
Yeah.
Edmund figures it out is because when he accidentally drops the heavy spear, it splashes on his toe of his boots. Thank God he's got boots on. And the toes of his boots turn to gold. And that's when he realizes, oh crap! Like this thing will turn anything it touches to gold.
Mm-hmm.
yes, but
Then
then
of course to
they
test
want
it,
to fight
Prince
over
Caspian
it.
dips a shell in it because he's a dumbass.
They then
Sorry.
They then threaten each other until Aslan snaps him out of the gold fever.
No,
basically.
they were threatening each other until that point.
That's exactly
You
what
said they weren't.
No, I said they were.
Oh, okay. I misheard you. Sorry.
Again,
Gosh.
there's that one say he's illiterate, so keep going.
I thought you said they weren't threatening each other
No,
until
they were
after
threatening
Aslan.
each other.
Well, and Lucy even gets in the middle of it, and she basically says, "You boys, stop this now!"
Yeah.
Girl power.
So then they swear each other to secrecy about it because it's just such a greedy.
Well, Reepicheep
Temptation.
renames it to Deathwater.
And then after that, they go to the next place.
And one other thing, Andrew.
Is the
It's
next
important.
one?
It's important to point out that at that point they've seen 2 or 3 lords. There was the one on the first island. Then there was the dead dragon,
Yes.
which was
Yeah.
the second lord. And the third lord is the gold statue at the bottom of the Deathwater.
Yes.
And you can kind of track with the story based on how many lords they've seen.
Mm-hmm. And then
Does they get to the monopod, invisible monopods next, or do they go to the dark mist next? I don't remember.
no, Dark Island is
Is it after the monopod? No, it's before the monopods, right?
I can't remember.
I
I'm
think
gonna look it up.
it's the invisible
I
people.
think-
Yeah, it's the monopods next, isn't it?
Yeah, Island of the Voices. They basically go to an island where there's a bunch of invisible voices,
Mhm.
right? And they threaten
Well,
to kill
invisible
them.
people producing
Yes.
voices that.
Well, they were concerned when they got there though, because all they hear is thum, 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 right? Because they don't
Yeah.
know they're one-legged dudes hopping around. They just think the thumps are like giants or something.
Yes, and then they're all invisible because they cast a spell because of their own vanity,
Right.
and they thought
Because they thought they were
hideous.
ugly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which they kind
Even
of
though the
are,
magician makes the claim that they were uglier before they turned invisible.
but- yes.
Or before they changed their forms.
So they threaten to kill everybody unless Lucy goes and.
No, they didn't threaten to kill them.
Yes, they did.
No, they alluded to it, but they never actually made the threat.
They threw a damn spear at
That
him.
was to point out that they were real. That wasn't to hit anybody.
It was a threat.
They wanted to prove their existence.
In my mind, I took it as they were being threatened.
You're right. They
being
didn't
cut to
threaten
pieces.
anyone. They just killed someone.
They wanted to. No, they didn't want to. But
So
can you help me with one thing though, Andrew?
yes,
So after Lucy agrees to do this task for them,
yes.
she goes to the house. Is the house invisible, or did I misread
No.
something? Okay, good. Because
It
in the
is
movie they made the
100%.
freaking house invisible.
You can see everything inside this house.
I know. That's what I was like. Wait a second. How is Lucy gonna find
No,
it?
they talk about how they saw things happening at the house and were confused because
Yeah,
like the
that's what I
well was
thought.
working and everything. And it's like they saw activity.
Yeah, they opened up
around
this
that
this
house.
door in the middle of nowhere in the movie, and there's no mansion.
Okay, the movie sucks.
Yeah, it's
I
a
think
terrible
We've already
movie.
come to this conclusion, but
Sorry, I'll stop interjecting with movie.
so she goes
Don't watch it.
Oh my god.
they determine that a young girl needs to be the one to say the spell or whatever. Probably a bunch of bull crap. Personal opinion. There's
Well,
just,
if the magician can do it and he's an old dude, then yes.
yeah,
that's
I'm calling it a bunch of bull crap, but whatever.
The only reason they said that is because the person who cast the spell for them in the first place was a little girl.
Yes.
And then here's the real question: where the hell's the little girl?
I was gonna say all the monopods are dudes.
They ate
So
her.
where's the little girl that made the spell happen in the first place? I'm so confused about that, because if a little girl made the spell happen, where is
Let's be
she?
honest. No, it was one of their daughters or nieces.
Right,
or
but where
whatever.
is she?
I know. It's very
They ate her.
confusing.
That is a plot hole. That
It
is
is
a
a
plot
very
hole.
confusing group of people. I will say this, but while Lucy's going through the book, she's seeing all these different spells, like endless spells that are a
Right.
possibility, and the magician is actually a star.
Yeah,
He was
he's a
being
younger
punished.
star being punished by having to take care of the monopods.
Yes, and I guess it's something that is needed by Aslan or whatever. But
And there's a lesson learned while she's flipping through the pages.
yeah, because she sees a spell that would make her as beautiful as Susan.
That's not the one that is in the book. That's in the movie.
No, that's in the book.
Okay, well, the one that stuck out to me was not that one. It was the one where her friends were talking about her behind her back.
Yeah,
And
there's
then
that one
Aslan
too.
says-
There's
yeah,
both
okay.
of them. She skips by the one, but she is
Okay.
unable to resist a second one to find out what her friends really think about her.
And then Aslan
which
tells her
case-
she can't unhear it.
She can't unhear it, and she heard something completely out of context where someone was like kind of in a bullied situation.
Where they wanted to fit in, and if they were to have said what they really thought, they wouldn't have fit in.
Yeah, so she hears something, and she feels where her supposed friend kind of just bad talks her a little bit. Not that drastic, but she can't unhear it in the most British sense possible. So she took it very personally.
That was one of those you get what you ask for type of deals.
Yeah.
Where you asked to hear it, now you did, and you can't unhear it now.
Yep. And then I don't think there's much else with this island to talk about except for the fact that the monopods are really dumb.
Extreme. Well, yeah, as the magician is explaining why he had them doing what they're doing,
Well,
basically you find out that everything he had them do was to make their life easier.
yeah, and then they wanted to do everything harder by
Yeah.
a long ways, and then
God, they were terrible.
they're just dumb, and
So
then
dumb.
They just parrot whatever their leader says in the most annoying to read way you could ever read.
Yeah, I almost skipped this chapter because I remembered it, and I didn't want to read it again.
Yeah, I honestly, it's interesting, but I feel like C.S. Lewis made them just too silly to be a good read in that.
Aye,
portion.
Chief, that's a great story you
Again,
told
but
there.
I looked this up. So these books are meant for like 8-year-olds.
Yeah.
Right.
I can understand like this being fun for an 8-year-old.
It could be. Could be.
Well, like, what age was Lord of the Rings written for? Like 12?
I
15?
looked it up.
20?
No, way younger than that. 1 second.
Well, The Hobbit was written for
The
way younger
Hobbit's
than that.
young, but
Yeah, I
don't
know.
remember
I have
Lord of the
to.
Rings.
I keep comparing it to The Hobbit, which I feel like is just unfair.
The Hobbit is probably written at the same level as Narnia.
yeah,
Anyways,
What do you mean? All of this is
for the same age, The Hobbit is the same level as Narnia.
okay, so the Dark
Right?
Island's next. You were right, Andrew. Dark Island comes next. So they get to the Dark Island, and some of the sailors knew what this place was. It's a place where your dreams can come true. So he was
Your
hoping to see his
nightmares.
dead wife.
It's where your
Nightmares.
nightmares.
Let me
come
finish,
through.
though. Then they get inside the mist. They hear voices. They see things, and they find the fourth Lord.
Yes.
And of
Haunted.
course, he yells to them and says, "It brings all your dreams to life, like your nightmares included."
Well, we've also skipped the sea serpent because there is a sea serpent.
Is that in between here?
Prior to, yes.
Oh, okay. Well, the sea serpent was important, and I think the sea serpent was done better in the book than it was done in any of the renditions.
I mean,
on
the sea serpent
TV.
is, maybe important. It doesn't really do anything except threaten them, and then they escape. It's very lackluster.
It kind of shows you that no matter how well you execute your plan, there are always things outside your control.
Yeah, but it also comes with the fact that you need teamwork.
Teamwork, yep.
Teamwork lesson more than anything. How they had to work together to push the serpent off.
You
And
can't
as long
always
as
just chop at things either, like Eustace does.
Yeah.
So,
But
yeah,
in
good
the
point,
Dark
Andrew.
Island though, they find the other Lord, and that's really it. They managed to get their way out.
And it's not a focal part of the story, unlike the freaking movie. Anyways, yeah, they get him out, and so now we're up to 4 lords. 4 lords, and there's no swords. What do you know?
You won't understand the swords thing unless you watch the movie, but
Such
you don't
a
want
stupid
to.
movie.
So it's not a part of the book. All right. Then they end up
You know, there's 3 people left, so the chapter next is called The 3 Sleepers.
3 sleepers.
What do you think they're gonna find?
Well, they find an island that is Aslan's table, basically.
Well, and they made the same assumption I would have made when they got there.
That the food. Well, okay, they come to basically Aslan's island, right?
Well, no, it's Ramandu. Ramandu's island, but it's got Aslan's stuff on it.
It's Aslan's effing island.
It's his table. It's Ramandu's island. Was the island of Ramandu?
Why would Aslan have his breakfast table?
Because he does. What's your point?
Because that's his island. He has
the land that Aslan's from is over the Eastern
Waterfall.
Sea.
Yeah, but this is like his.
No, that
house
water
within the
I'm
realm.
not gonna tell him that one yet.
This is basically his house within the Narnian world.
All right, let's go.
realm.
Keep going to pot.
Keep going. All right, so they get there. There's a table, 3 dudes sitting there, not moving but breathing. They're alive. The child of the star, Ramandu, shows up and kind of says, "Oh, it's safe. Everything's good." And then they're like, "Okay, so Reepicheep is the first one to take a leap because Reepicheep's the most courageous person in this whole frickin' story." And he takes a big swig, and then everybody else joins in with him.
You're missing the part where the they didn't eat it at all, and then the birds came.
Yeah, they waited a day over. Yeah.
Yeah, the birds came, cleaned the table out, and then put new food out, and then they ended up eating the food, and none of the other sailors got to eat any of it.
Yep.
And then they're tasked with what they need to do to wake up the 3 sleepers, which is
leave somebody at the end of the world.
basically. They have to travel to the end of the world and leave somebody. And the thing is, he doesn't want to bring anybody on the journey that isn't going to volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
So he uses reverse psychology, and they all end up wanting to go, except one who joins the Calormen after the book's over.
Basically, because he was the only one who was left behind.
Cowardice.
He wanted to join at the end, but
Yeah, he did.
because
But he
of
couldn't. It's
everything
late.
he did, Caspian wouldn't let him join.
Mhm.
So then he couldn't live with the shame.
Right.
So
Just
you
shows
have to
that a little
leave.
courage in the face of danger is never a bad thing.
Well,
Well,
it also shows
not
that
never,
you
but-
need people to be
Loyal.
loyal, and it's not against their will.
Yeah, that's true.
You need
All right.
people to be bought into the thing. So they travel all the way to the end of the world.
And Reepicheep decides he's the one, because he wanted to do this in the first place, to go
Yeah.
across into Aslan's real
Yep, and
country.
then he gets carried up on eagle's
Yep.
wings.
And I will raise you
Yeah,
up.
exactly.
and
Yeah,
I've seen that done 2 different ways in 2 different movies. So.
And then the everyone else leaves Narnia.
Yep.
Eustace, Edmund, and Lucy all leave Narnia.
But they don't go the
back
same
home.
way as Reepicheep. They go a different
No,
way.
they get a door.
Yep. And it's, the weirdest part is that Aslan greets them as a lamb.
Yeah.
And says, "I'm known
yeah.
by a different name in your
The
world."
Christianity in this one was thick. Just like
Only at the
he was
end.
reading the reviews of the other books, like they're not getting it. Throw the Bible at him.
But the lamb turns into a lion. It was like,
Yes.
dude, how much more obvious can you get?
Yeah. Well,
I
he
go
can't
by
get
a
more obvious
different
by saying-
name.
Exactly, by saying, I go by a different name.
Oh my gosh. I was like
Yes.
cracking up when I read that. All right. So
that's
before we,
basically
Yeah.
that's basically it.
Also, I
And
think
then
that
Caspian
line
goes and
is in the
marries
Narnia
this.
movie.
And
what,
then
what line is in the Narnia movie?
Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over Andrew. It's in the Lion, the Witch, and Wardrobe movie. That line. Is at
Oh,
the end
about
of the
the-
movie.
Yeah, probably is.
Yeah. I think it's in the book too.
I
That's
don't
just-
remember.
Oh.
But then the book pretty much. Oh, it does wrap up with the conclusion saying that Caspian goes back to the island, marries the star's daughter.
That's what
Yep.
I was
Yep.
trying to say.
Sorry, go ahead.
no, that's what I was trying to say before when Will and I were trying to talk at the same
He
time.
must have realized, like, after the kids left the world, like, oh, I might need to say what happened to Caspian.
Mhm.
And only two
Yeah.
more things need to be told. One is that Caspian and his men all came safely back to Ramandu's island, jackass. And the three lords woke from their sleep. Caspian married Ramandu's daughter, and they all reached Narnia in the end. She became a great queen, mother, the great-grandmother of kings, blah, blah, blah. You'd never know him for the same boy except Aunt Alberta, this is talking about Eustace, who said he had become very commonplace and tiresome, and must have been the influence of those Pevensey children. Poor Pevensey children.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's jump into the lessons learned. You kind of got there a little bit early.
Sorry.
Jumping the shark.
Well,
there,
how about
Chris,
since
at
we
one
know that
point.
Will is short-lived tonight, we do a little bit out of order.
Short-lived.
We do our ratings now.
Okay.
Okay. Oh man, what did I give the last one? I didn't give it a 3.
I'm giving this one a 2. I actually don't like this one.
I will give this one a 3 simply because this is tough because it flips around too much and doesn't focus enough on a plot for me or like one particular storyline. But I do like the sailing theme, going back to the boats, and I do like I like the fact there was like these cool islands, like all this magic, and it really does introduce like different types of magic into the world. And there's tons of unanswered questions, and I almost feel like that makes it a little bit more magical. Just because there's so much things that like doesn't really make sense, especially after reading. Oh crap! What is the one that? What's the first book we read?
Magician's Nephew.
Magician's Nephew. So after reading that one, a lot of this stuff doesn't make sense now. Which I don't know.
Why?
It makes it like, well, one, the painting. How did they get into Narnia from the painting? They explain the wardrobe in that book.
Probably had some magic dust on it, or Aslan.
No,
Aslan's
Aslan
your
can brings
answer.
you any way you want, and he realizes that Caspian needed their assistance.
All right.
It's
But then, like,
Aslan can brings you any way you want. He wants.
What about
you
the origin of the magic on the different islands?
Oh, that one of my favorite lines was when Lucy makes everybody appear, and Aslan appears, and she goes, "Aslan, the magic worked on you," and he goes, "Yeah,
It's
why
my
would I not
magic."
live by my own rules that I made up?" It's like, oh my gosh. He's like, what's the point of these rules if I don't live by them as well? It's like, wow, what a logical lion we have.
I'll go with a 3. Will
Dude,
you
I'm giving
sold
this
me
one a
little
4.
bit.
This book was fantastic. The movie sucked.
No,
The
it's
movie sucked.
Okay, I'm not gonna go that far with it.
no.
I'm giving it a 4.
Okay, I wish. There's nothing that really comes of finding the lords, in my humble opinion. He doesn't complete that.
It just
circle.
moves the plot. It just moves the plot.
No,
That's
but
the whole
yeah,
point of it.
but my problem is there's nothing that really ties the plot of the islands together in a good way. I wish they were being chased by somebody, maybe, or there was.
Oh my
some...
gosh, you want the mist from the movie?
I
don't
no,
you?
I kind of wish there was more of a rival of some kind, like some villain, and
I don't. I think the book is just fine. There's just a few flaws with it.
no, like okay, let's say he put more effort into the Lone Islands plot about the ending the slave trade there, all of that stuff, right? Because that's the base for stealing people from all the other realms to sell to Collarman. What if one of them had? What if that slave trader had tried to chase him down, or had hunted him the rest of the plot to get
Then the
revenge?
Duke would have killed him before he got off the island.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I definitely appreciate what you're saying, but the reason why I enjoyed this a little bit more, and also to putting in perspective, it's supposed to be for 8-year-olds, is
Yeah.
that this reminded me of the stories my mom would just make up before putting me to bed. where it didn't really
That's
make
fair.
sense. There wasn't necessarily a villain. It was just like an adventure. So you go into this island, a bunch of magical shit happens. Oh, you're gonna go to this next island, different magical shit happens. And
Well, some of them are just a bit shallow.
oh yeah, for sure, they're very shallow.
Yeah, so it's like it's very I don't know. Some of them are hard to. Some of the chapters are hard to like because of that. They seem even shallow for a kid.
Honestly,
is my
overall,
opinion.
so far, my opinions of these books is that I really wish that he had made like an adult version where he explored all of these things more in depth and just Narnia in
Yeah.
general, and just developed the plot. That would have been really cool, like a la like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. I would stick at.
Well, I feel like the
3,
space trilogy is almost a more adult plot.
probably.
Yeah,
I mean,
guess.
they don't connect in any way, shape, or form. But it feels like the space trilogy is what he would have written if he was writing for adults.
Well, he's capable of doing it, which I guess makes it slightly more frustrating that he doesn't do it in these books.
The
Yeah.
even like if he had done more like The Hobbit, I feel like The Hobbit does a very good balancing act of that. But this one, I feel like the best one to compare it to is The Horse and Its Boy,
Okay.
and I don't think that this compares well to The Horse and His Boy. That is just such an
That one is
excellent
still
book.
superior. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just such an excellent book, and it's a journey that explores different things. So
The saddest
know.
part of this whole book is that he expanded Prince Caspian but left Archenland alone. Prince Caspian just wasn't that interesting.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean,
I gotta hop off, guys. We can keep going. I enjoyed the book.
That was a good book.
so
Yeah.
are you a 4, Chris?
I'm solidly at a 4.
Okay. Well, let's jump into some of the lessons learned type of thing.
Yeah, I mean there was a lot. There's a lot of lessons learned.
Let's just look at Eustace because I feel like
He's the most developed character.
He is the lessons learned, and he is the character because if I'm not mistaken, he's in the next one. He's the main.
Yeah, he's in the silver chair.
Yeah, he's
Him
the
and
main
another girl. They
character.
bring a new girl in.
Yeah, he brings a new girl. So this book is kind of a Eustace is being created type of book. He starts off uncreative to the point that he hates ideas because he's not creative enough.
He's like the type of person that's so stuck in, like he's so anti-fantasy that he's lost some common sense.
Right. He's an elitist.
A little
Right?
bit. Yeah, that's true. A little bit.
I would argue the way he's described early on, he would be the definition of woke back then.
Maybe, I don't know.
No, don't you remember his early descriptions? It's like he's like a vegetarian type. He's all of these things.
He's just a health nut and a science-absorbed little child.
Well, his family.
He
as
views
opposed to-
him. I'll say this: he views himself as above anyone who would consider fantasies something worth checking out.
Yeah, I'm just saying that he
definitely
has
comes
of,
from a very elite family,
well,
very intellectual
I
family.
wouldn't say elite. I would say elitist. They think
Elitist
to
or
themselves-
an intellectual
Yeah.
family.
He's the definition of how he causes his own problems by being an unpleasant little person.
But I will say, there's nothing about his family that strikes me as woke.
No, I'm saying though that he's like a lot of the thing he's on that trip of the ethical, not necessarily ethical, but some of the trends that C.S. Lewis picks are like the things that you would think are just annoying as crap culture things, not you know what I'm saying?
He's taking a kid.
It's like he would be if he wrote it today, the kid would be vegan. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say.
I think he was just trying to point out that they were so into science that they were basically atheists.
Yes.
And the trip was about Eustace learning lessons and being open to a higher power.
That's fair. But would you agree he causes his own problems by being unpleasant?
He absolutely causes his own problems by being unpleasant.
And he's constantly seeing the imagined worse in every other person because he is simply upset.
Like he just takes for granted that Lucy's okay with giving him some for water. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I mean, he's just constantly terrible.
Yeah. He
Um,
constantly refers to Caspian and Edmund as fiends.
yes,
I had to sleep with the fiends tonight.
he's constantly talking about how he's going to report them to the British Crown,
The Port Authority.
the Port Authority, the second he gets a chance. You know,
He's
he-
like, the Queen Mary is a much better ship.
yes.
Oh my god.
I did actually find him really funny though when he found that dragon treasure, because he's just like, oh yeah,
Finally, something good has happened to me.
something good, and there's no tax or giving
Yeah,
treasure,
there's no
treasure to the
tax.
government, and I'm just like, okay, Eustace, I like your character a little bit more right now because you're thinking properly.
Well, the best part is when he wakes up and he thinks that there's a dragon to his left and he sees it move when he's starting to move. He's like, oh no. And he looks to the right and he looks over and he sees the dragon to his right. He's like, it's moving when I'm moving. And then he looks down and he sees the tears falling at the same rate that his tears are falling. He's like, wait a second, I am the dragon.
The best part about that though is he's a lesson on you need to really experience your low of lows before you can kind of transcend and become a better person. You need to really recognize that you're a problem, which is what
if
he
you can't
finally
see
does.
your own flaw. It's the parable of the beam in your own eye versus the speck in your neighbor's eye.
Yeah, and I thought it was really good that C.S. Lewis describes his, because he has a redemption similar to Edmund's, right?
Yeah,
He's
and
kind
Edmund
of a
actually
villain.
talks about how bad he was before he figured himself out too.
Yeah, and with Eustace though, he takes another approach where it's a personality thing where Edmund wasn't necessarily a bad person. Eustace
True.
kind of is. All right, he kind of is, but he's when he hits his absolute low as a dragon, he recognizes it, and C.S. Lewis describes his come to Jesus moment, so to speak, as something that he was working on becoming a better person. It wasn't an overnight success. He still had his moments, but he was working and improving daily, you know? So it's one of those things where I thought that was a very valuable lesson where you just Eustace's overall arc and how Lewis is like very gracious to him.
And Reepicheep is just a constant don't judge a book by its cover character. Also very courageous. Just
Well,
morally one of the strongest characters in the last two books.
Reepicheep is also one of the most gracious characters. He's very generous.
He's very pragmatic.
Yeah, he's very generous to others when they don't want to fight him.
Yeah, that's true. Take your sword and fight me.
I have to laugh at C.S. Lewis because he was properly British and crapped on gingers at one point.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he's talking about when Prince Caspian met. What was the daughter?
Some
of
girl.
something?
It's a daughter of one of the
And he said she
lords.
was she was squinty and freckled, or she was a squint and she had freckles.
Yes.
And Lucy goes, "Poor girl."
Right.
Gosh.
It was blatant ginger.
I guess C.S.
hate.
Lewis did not like redheads.
Apparently, just like the fact that Squint and Freckles were put on the same level.
Gosh.
And then, like, she was cursed is how Lucy reacts. Like, oh, poor girl, even this stupid little flask of medicine magic isn't going to help her.
The best example, though, of Reepicheep in the whole book, of being, like, just unparalleled in courageousness, is when they discover the mermaids and they have spears and they're coming up to the surface, and Reepicheep's just like, let me at him, jumps right in the water to go fight them. I was like, oh my gosh, this guy is such a freaking crazy rat.
He's always willing to fight.
He just like jumps right in to fight mermaid. He can't even swim. Barely.
You touched on this topic earlier about the slavers.
Yeah.
And there's C.S. Lewis over here about not trusting strangers or certain, who you can't trust. There's always this theme early on in the books, right?
Don't trust a stranger.
In this book, his lesson is don't trust strange men or gangs or slavers, right? Like if you don't know
invisible people,
but like when it comes to the slavers, they were a gang of guys just chilling, right? And he's just like, you don't know them. Be cautious,
Right.
because they can just capture you. And
Never tell somebody who is going to capture you your worth.
that too. If you've been captured, don't tell them your true worth, because then they might look for a better deal than just trying to ransom you back for whatever amount of money.
150 shekels or whatever it was.
Yeah. It was like, if they knew they had Caspian, they might have just killed him. Or they would have ransomed him.
If they'd have known he was
going
going
to
to end
money.
the slave trade, they probably would have said, off with his head.
No, they probably would have taken him to Colorman and sold him there so that he would have to swear fealty.
Yeah, maybe.
Something like that. But it's just like, show some restraint. Don't be like, I'm
and
this person.
When he ends the slave trade in the collar,
You
he's just
know
like, we
who
just
I
want our
am?"
money back.
Right.
We just want our money back. We'll leave. See you later.
Yeah.
He ends their whole business practice on the island. He's like, we'll just leave. Oh, well.
That's the lesson learned too. Slavery's bad,
Yes. Yeah.
Narnia does not condone such behavior like the Collarman.
I love how
And-
the governor just like shrugs him off. Like, we only have meeting times between 9 and 10 p.m. on the third Saturday of the month.
Yeah.
Like 9 and 10 p.m. by appointment. He just says that like 4 times. They walk over to his table. They're like, nope, flip the table, pull him out of the throne, sit Caspian there. Like, you're going to listen now, dude. He's like, we've had enough governors. Time for a duke.
The other, you brought up Reepicheep consoling Eustace just about how history is full of those who have fallen low only to rise again.
Yep.
That was a very valuable lesson. There was another one you mentioned via text message earlier in the
Was
day
it one of my
about-
texts where I was so angry about the movie?
No, it was
Oh,
about
okay.
the important thing about how not all that is seems good is good, and not all.
Oh, yeah, when they get to
that
the
was that
island.
quote.
Yeah, that's right. It was...
Because that was a very good message as well.
Not all things that seem safe are, and not all things that are... Or wait, it was something along those lines. It was something Drinian said, I think.
I guess I gotta look for it.
I've got it.
message.
Hold on, I'll find it. There's so many of the things of me complaining
Yes,
about how
I know.
bad that movie was.
You were blowing up my phone.
God,
with
that movie's
hate
terrible.
messages about.
You
the
must
movie.
collect the 7 swords of the 7 lords and restore them to Aslan's table to break the curse. Such a stupid
come on, guys.
storyline.
Find the quote.
I'm finding it. God, that's so terrible. That storyline's awful.
I told you. I hate to be that guy who keeps saying "I told you so," but
Things that seem safe and things that are safe are often 2 different things.
yes, that is a very valuable lesson.
That was Captain Drinian speaking. But yeah, he like Captain Drinian is probably the most level-headed and calm character in the whole series. Like anytime Caspian's like, "Let's go do this," he's just like, "Okay."
I mean, it is his king, but
I mean, he just rolls with it. He just rolls with it. Never complains. Just rolls with it.
right. And I think we talked about the Dark Island. I think that was valuable just because
You should never. You
everyone's
get what you wish for,
initially
right?
everyone is initially very excited, right? Because this is the place where dreams come true. But then you also realize that
It's like that
also-
Ghostbusters moment where they're like, "Don't think of anything terrible," and then they get the
Right.
Stay Puffed Marshmallow Man come in to rain down terror.
because it's one of those things where it's a very powerful island, right? Where
Yeah,
it's equally bad to good ratio right there, where you're going to be focusing on your nightmares way more. Your mind can go to some dark places. It's like
Well,
the
it's
Depression
like that whole study on, you can have 1,000 good things said to you, but that one bad thing is going to eat away at your soul.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a study where it's like for every bad event, you need like 7 positives to outweigh it.
It's a lot. It takes a lot
Yeah.
to balance out bad with good. So, like, when you have an even number, the bad is going to seriously conquer the good.
Yeah, and then the island, with the invisible people.
The monopods.
Yeah, we kind of discussed those lessons learned for Lucy in there. That was
Yep.
pretty. That was pretty good. Just about being careful what you wish for, all that stuff.
Also, never trust the Callerman.
That's just a given, right? I feel like if you read The Horse and His Boy, that message was loud and clear. They're slavers. You can't trust slavers.
Never trust the Callerman.
It was interesting how the stars were being punished by having to live on islands.
I know. It's kind of weird.
Outside of that, though, I can't think of. Am I missing any big?
The real question is, how did Caspian get it on with a star? Because I'm
don't know.
not sure how that
Oh,
happened.
but with Lucy's when she did the spell to make everything invisible, visible, and Aslan being seen, it's important because I don't think you really put this together, but Aslan is saying that there are fundamental truths.
Oh, yeah. Like, he follows the
Right.
truths.
Yeah, there are fundamental truths that no matter what, as long as you're looking for that unobjective truth, you can find it.
Unobjective truth?
I mean, the unbiased, just
The
fundamental
objective truth.
Objective truth, yes.
Gosh, the
I'm having a
unobjective
you
truth.
moment. I'm having a you moment.
We're
Chris.
looking for the subjective truth.
We're not looking for the subjective truth.
Well, when
We're
you say
looking for the
unobjective, the only thing I can think
mean,
of is subjective.
I know. I had a moment.
We're looking for
man.
the adjacent truth, not the
I
real
had
truth.
a moment, man. Okay.
You're like
You're-
the fake news, man.
I was you in the beginning, basically what you were in the beginning of this podcast. But yeah, there's objective truth, right? So
I think there's a lot of lessons packed into one book here.
I don't.
Each island is a lesson in and of itself.
Yeah, you could say
Although there's a lot of greed.
You could say the one is greed.
Actually, most of the lessons in this are greed. The slave traders are greedy. The dragon's curse is brought on to the greedy. The person in the bottom of the pool, well, that person was probably not greedy, but the fact that there was gold at the bottom of the pool would lead to somebody wanting the gold and the greed and all that fun stuff. Then you get to
Well, there's like a bewitchment of that pond too, which is basically a greed bewitchment, right?
it's like the Midas
So-
touch thing.
Yeah.
And then you get to the people are greedy. They want their dreams without working for them. And because of that greed, you get your nightmare. And then the next set is... the lesson of greed is that the three lords at the table, they all want what they want. They're unwilling to compromise. They almost lay it down and fight. And so they are instead touching that dagger and they
Yeah.
fall asleep. Like, the whole book is an anti-greed story.
Yeah. And being careful what you wish for.
Right. And the anti-greed, pragmatic character of the book, Reap Cheap. Sacrifices himself for everybody. And then at the end, these three
It
men
wasn't
who
a
he doesn't even
sacrifice
know-
though. He wanted it.
Yeah, but he knows he can never return.
Yeah,
Right.
but he wanted that.
He wanted to go to the east. There's no point in the book up until the sacrifice where he says, like, I want this no matter what.
He wanted to go all the way.
The choice, let me put it this way, the choice was taken away from him. He had a choice where if he wanted to chicken out or didn't want to go, he didn't have to. And
That's
then
fair.
when they find out about the lords, and the only way to get them broken from the spell is somebody has to cross never to come back, he courageously said, you know what, take away my decision, I will just do it.
Yeah. Well,
And then Caspian tries to ruin it by going with him. That was the part I didn't understand at all. I was like, is he jealous of Reepicheep doing this? Or what's going on here? Because there was no point in the story where Caspian said, I'm going to go before that. That's the
It's
only
just-
thing they fleshed out in the movie where I wasn't upset. They made it out like Caspian wanted to go across to see his dad in Aslan's country. Which I was like, okay, that makes sense. The book itself, in this case, does not make sense, and this is one of those few plot holes that removes it from being a 5 for me.
well, I'm just gonna say that I don't think it compares to The Horse and His Boy.
I gave that one a
And-
5.
No, I know, but I'm saying I don't think it compares, and
Oops.
that would be the closest book to it, as
I think
far
this
as
one is-
opportunity
I
for what the
think
story is.
this one's more closely tied to Magician's Nephew. There's a lot of good stuff here.
Maybe
But
it's a
there's
hybrid between
There's a couple
the two.
things holding back from being the Horse and His Boy as good.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worse than The Magician's Nephew, in my opinion. I actually like that one a lot.
But that one's a lot better as an adult reading that one.
And I think that if it was fleshed out better as a story, it would have been on the level of The Horse and His Boy. But I feel like there's just a couple parts where he's a bit more vague. It leaves you wanting more on most of the islands. I think that was my complaint.
I actually didn't mind the briefness of the islands because
Oh.
at no point in the story do they have the time's not on their side. They need to get back so Caspian can rule the kingdom. I never felt like the time they spent on the islands was too short.
Yeah, I really liked how he sped up time, though. When he did the Eustace journal entries,
Yeah, that was good.
that was a very good method of
Very good
time
use
warp.
of-
Yes,
Yeah.
very good usage.
They actually did that in the movie too.
Did they?
Yeah.
Um,
It wasn't as good, but they did.
I haven't seen that movie in forever. I just know it's all terrible.
Now I have to watch Prince Caspian to decide which one's worse.
Oh, oh.
But if there's a whole Susan and Caspian love story, then clearly
Yes,
it's going to
there
be
is.
worse.
There
Although
is.
Lucy pining after Caspian was weird.
You know, they attack the castle in that.
In the movie Prince.
Yes!
What? Oh my
They do a
God.
sneak attack at night on the castle.
What castle? Mirez?
Yeah.
Did they even read the book?
No.
Oh my gosh.
I told you, it's terrible. It's a terrible movie.
That whole war ends with like a duel between frickin' Peter and Mirez.
Well, it ends with the trees taking everything over.
The ends.
The battle is not very interesting.
No.
Let's just be honest there. So I don't have anything else to say to this. I'm with Will on this. It's a 3. You're saying it's a 4.
I thought Will
I'll
said it.
agree
Oh, you
with
said it too.
I at first said a 2, but I'm
You're
willing to
giving it
go
a
up
3
to a
now,
3.
okay.
Yeah, he convinced me with the magicalness and reminding me of the
Age
demographic.
appropriateness.
Yeah,
The demographic.
Hey.
Like kids reading this book will know what demographic means.
they're not having this review. The parents are watching this. Okay. No, I mean, at the same time though, I'm a little like reluctant to see it that way, just because I have The Hobbit to compare to, and I feel
It's actually
like,
called There and Back Again, A Hobbit's Journey.
I don't care, Chris. I'm just saying when you compare it to Tolkien's equivalent, I feel like this could have gleaned a lot of lessons from the structure.
I think C.S. Lewis saw how big some of Tolkien's books got and said, nope, ain't writing a long book. Because 90% of C.S. Lewis's books are short.
No, but The Hobbit, how many pages are in The Hobbit? I'll find this out real
I mean,
fast.
it's probably shorter than The Last Battle, but C.S. Lewis had so many things he had to wrap up in that book.
One second.
He really put himself in a corner trying to
Okay.
finish this kind of
Okay,
genre.
how many pages were in this book?
Like, well, in my particular copy, it was like 70 pages.
In the small standard little paperback, it was 270.
I thought you had the hardcover set.
I do, but I'm saving those to be nice. I didn't
So
feel
you're
like
you're reading the paperbacks, even though you got the super nice set.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
I wanted to keep them as a kind of a collection.
Oh my gosh, we gotta have a
Untouched
conversation
for a while.
about this a different time.
I know, but all right.
I have the same exact paperback you just pulled out.
I know.
The same one.
I know. It was very popular when the movies were a thing.
No, I got the books before. I think before Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe came out.
No, but I'm saying that around the time of the movies, they did a big thing about.
They did, yeah.
So yeah, the thing I'm saying is though this is 270 something pages,
And
The Hobbit's at least 300, if not way
it's
more.
366.
Okay.
Which that's not that many more pages. It's not like that's a massive.
It's probably
story.
a smaller font, though.
Fair, but
Tolkien can't write a short story to save his life.
I'm just saying that if C.S. Lewis was willing to write 300 something pages, just an extra 100 pages,
You think it would be better?
just an extra 100 pages, I think the story would be a lot better.
I'll keep that in mind when I write my own book. It must be at least 300 pages or Andrew's going to dog me on it.
No, it's just the fact that he has so many different plots in this one, specifically this one.
I feel like this is the book where C.S. Lewis had like a ton of ideas and said, all right, let's just make this one book.
Yeah, because okay, this is the same size basically as The Horse and His Boy. They're all basically the same amount of pages.
Except for the last battle.
I think The Horse and His Boy is a little bit smaller, actually, than this one. But the thing is, The Horse and His Boy is a much fuller story, much richer story.
More complete, more linear with its plot lines, and more consistent.
Yeah. There's consistent growth throughout that story. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And the only character that has that in this is Eustace.
Yeah, pretty much the dragon is like the climax of his arc.
Yeah.
And after that, everything gets better for him. And
'Cause
then
I
it
don't
kind of
even-
shows his bravery.
Yeah, because I don't know if I can say any other character except for maybe Reepicheep grew as well.
I don't know. Reepicheep probably, if anything, got shorter throughout the story. Just kidding.
Oh my gosh.
I will say, if you are going to watch any kind of video adaptation of any of these books, go online and Google the BBC edition of these books. They got through 4 instead of just 3 books like Disney and Fox did. Disney and Fox only made
Did they
it
do
through.
Silverchair?
BBC did.
Yeah.
And Eustace is actually played by a much better actor, in my opinion.
Is he?
Yes. Oh, yeah. And they actually follow the book. They were able to get through all of Prince Caspian's plotline without sacrificing too much content in 1 hour.
Yeah.
And then they got through
that's
Voyage
all
of the
it
Dawn
needed to be.
Treader in 2 hours.
That's all it needed to be.
And the boat looks more like the Dawn Treader than the Disney version. And they actually are sailing in the BBC version. I'm not sure how they pulled that off, but they
Oh,
are.
really?
Yeah.
That's good.
They're in a very believable looking boat. The least, in fact, the CGI. Remember I showed that CGI from Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe and how bad
Yeah.
that was. The CGI got way better in the Voyage of the Dawn Treader. Like the dragon, not
Yeah.
too bad for the 80s.
I just thought that first one looked like a Pokemon. Just the way they had them sitting there was just like, Charizard, I choose you. Because one of them had wings. It was just so.
Oh,
funny.
right, the cartoon.
That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the Voyage of the Dawn Treader, they sparingly did not do that. Thank God. Again.
So yeah, I mean it's worth reading. I think it's one of those things where if you read the Chronicles of Narnia, you should just read all of them.
Yeah,
There's
you
no-
don't. There's no
real
reason to skip
skipping.
one.
Yeah.
And if you get an all-in-one book, well, good for you. You can just read all of them at once.
Ugh.
Don't get the
Oh.
one I got though. It's massive. It's
Don't
too big.
get the all-in-one book.
The Barnes and Noble had a really nice one that wasn't super big. It had like a ribbon on it. And if they still were carrying that, I probably would have bought that instead. It was only $25.
How many pages though?
It's about 400-500.
So it's a bigger book.
It's like the size of a standard sized Bible, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, that's why they have the ribbon in it, right?
Right. I don't think there's a bad Chronicles of Narnia book. So
The
Do we have any-
Go ahead. No,
I
I
was
don't think we
gonna-
have any questions.
no
today.
questions. All right. That was.
I
all
have a
was-
question for you.
Oh.
If you were to expand any character throughout the series that they've had so far, is there any character that you see clearly could have used their own book or their own chapter? What character so far do you think deserves more build up, more information?
Truffle Hunter.
You think so? From Prince Caspian?
Yeah.
I just like the Badger.
Okay. I was gonna
Um,
say the Trumpkin, right? Trumpkin.
I mean, it would be the same. It would be an origin story for them together, probably.
Well, no. You're thinking of Trumpkin's the half dwarf, half human.
No, no, he's
Yeah.
not. No,
You're
he's
thinking
not.
of Nikulik or whatever his name is.
Trumpkin is the.
Trumpkin is the wise old half dwarf, half human. I'm pretty sure.
I thought that. No, I thought it was the red dwarf. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, the one I want to have the expansion on is the old dwarf who does the astrology with Prince Caspian.
Cornelius or whatever his name is.
Cornelius, whatever his. It might be Cornelius. You might be
I
right.
forget his name.
That sounds right, actually. I'm probably wrong.
Trumpkin
him-
is not him. It's the red. That's the red dwarf that went to go fetch the children.
Okay, then him. He. I would do one with him, or I wouldn't mind seeing how the White Witch took over Narnia.
That would be interesting, but I would actually find it interesting if they had done the any of the wars with the giants.
Oh yeah.
Because
Interesting.
they talk about Peter being at war with the giants, they talk about Caspian being at war with the giants.
Yeah, you could at any point expand.
How do you go to war with the giants when you're like? I'm just curious.
You're like not even the size of Reaper to the giants.
Yeah, I'm just curious how you fight the giants that way. That's all. So
The best part in the BBC series was the Lion and the Witch in the Wardrobe was when they had the giant kick down the doors of the witch's castle. It was so hilariously badly edited. It was,
fine.
it was like he was kicking a dollhouse.
That's funny.
It was pretty bad.
It's fine. I mean, you're watching it for the story. It's like a musical slash.
It was
play.
charming. It was very charming. The BBC one, it was cringy and charming, and I loved it. But there was some parts where I was just like, oh my gosh, what are you doing?
You know, if your kids are young enough, they won't even realize how bad that is, and just enjoy it.
Yeah.
So,
Anyways, I recommend the book. Go read it. And if you're gonna watch any of the media, go watch the BBC one.
honestly, outside of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, it's not worth watching the movies.
Not the
just
Disney
not.
ones. Not the Disney ones. The
Any of
BBC
them.
one might be worth watching.
That's not a
Depends on how
movie.
much you like that. It's a.
It's a TV series.
You're right. It's a TV series.
I don't know. I'm curious to see how Netflix is going to do, because
If they don't start with the Magician's Nephew, it's a mistake.
I don't think they are. I
They
think they're
should,
going to do I think they're going to do it the other way.
What if they started with the silver chair? Like, we're the last
They
battle.
finally hired a director.
I know. I was
to
surprised
do
they
it.
did that.
And so now it's in script writing, which means it could be terrible and it could be good. Who knows?
And we'll
But
definitely
they're
see.
they're doing two of them for sure.
And Aslan will definitely be a lion with black fur, as well as the setting where the Pevensies will be from is Detroit. So there's that. But that's how Netflix will handle this.
Who will they get to? Morgan Freeman will be Aslan's voice.
Yeah, probably. Morgan Freeman will be Aslan's voice. Will Smith will play the fawn. Hey, he played Genie. He did a good job with Genie.
That's funny.
Lucy will be Willow. Anyway,
Oh my gosh.
Netflix is terrible. They always want to take a story and just change it as much as possible for the sake of the culture that's being produced.
They're not the worst. Disney's done way more.
Disney has done more damage to everything they've touched than any other organization on the planet, and they're not even like good at what they do anymore.
Yeah.
So
Well, I got nothing else, so I
Me
think we
neither.
can. I think we can end this one. We don't have a book planned for next week, so
no, next week I'm gonna be doing my darndest to finish. The Fourth Turning is here,
yes,
as well as
Which-
Return of the Gods. So 2 books, 2 weeks in a row.
that will be on the 26th. Though is when we're going to do
Return
the
of the
fourth turn.
Gods.
No, the fourth turning is here.
Oh
on the
yeah,
first
you're
week.
right.
Yes. So on the 26th, the fourth turning is here is what we will be reviewing. And then
on the
our
2nd.
first one in August on the 2nd will be Return of the Gods. So,
And then following that, we will still have a book on the 9th. Which one? Is that the next Narnia?
yes.
The 9th will be The Silver Chair.
Yes.
So we got no books next week and then 3 weeks worth of books for you guys. So
Yes.
if you're enjoying the book coverage, you will be very happy for, the 3 weeks following next week.
For sure, for sure. All righty.
As always, I'm Chris.
And I'm Andrew.
And
Will
we
already
appreciate
left.
you. We appreciate you. But Will doesn't. And we'll see you on the next. Printed and pressed.